You were telling me why
Well, Al-Shabaab has now opened a
we
new
can't
front.
get it. Yes, what's the new front?
The new front has started in mainland Lamu. It's a new front of its war in Somalia. But let's remember, a year ago at Dusit, the attackers, the Al-Shabaab attackers, were Kenyans. There were no foreign fighters there. This was not
None of them was actually an ethnic Somali.
No, they were not. And so, in other words, there is a franchise growing in Kenya, an Al-Shabaab franchise. Al-Shabaab is a franchise of Al-Qaeda. But the Kenyan organization now has developed its own identity, its recruitment patterns. And although there are people being sent for training into Somalia, we now have homegrown Kenyans who are not ethnic Somalis. But we have just generalized insecurity because we don't control the border either.
Yeah.
We've had a nearly 5-year operation supposedly to flush Al-Shabaab out of Boni Forest, which is ongoing. We still have an Italian NGO worker who was kidnapped, abducted.
The lady.
23-year-old, now 24-year-old, Silvia Constanca Romana, who was abducted on the 20th of November 2018 from Chagema Marketplace or Market Center in Kilifi. But that's 80 kilometers from the coast. And
from Mombasa?
Well, in Kilifi County, but it's, where there's some 15,000 Italian citizens permanently resident along the coast. But she was taken and then spirited away and is still missing. Now, we also have 2 Cuban doctors who were abducted in April of 2019.
From Mandera?
From Mandera, from outside their residence on the way to work. A policeman was killed, another policeman guard was wounded, and they were taken off and now are, in fact, practicing medicine in Somalia. They are delivering, well, you have to understand, Al-Shabaab in Somalia is administering anywhere between 800,000 and 1 million people. They control, it's referred to as vast swathes of the rural area. But they also, that's true, fair enough, they control, this is not so much ungoverned spaces, it's Al-Shabaab is now governing large areas of rural Somalia, but that's also including market centers, town centers. Everyone talks about how there's an administration of justice in Somalia by Al-Shabaab.
Yeah.
If you have a dispute, you go to Al-Shabaab, and that's including commercial disputes. In the last 2 months, it's come out that Al-Shabaab is collecting more taxes inside Mogadishu, including from the port, including now from the port, than is the federal government of Somalia. In other words, this is not because people are ideologically happy with Al-Shabaab or religiously happy. They are intimidated into supporting, and as most people in the world would like to have a peaceful day and go to sleep and wake up in the morning peacefully, you have to go with the strongest party in your area. It doesn't mean you acquiesce in what's going on.
What are the options? We are more or less on the fear that people have in their hands or their fingers very close to the buttons. What could possibly the Iranians do to put risk to Americans globally? And what, in your opinion, would be the reaction of America? I mean, Donald Trump was very categorical. He says, we will target everything, including cultural centers. And he figured out 52 targets.
Well, there's many more targets in Iran.
And my assumption is that some of those cultural targets he's talking about is Mashhad and all these religious places. By the way, I've been to a good number of them. Mm-hmm. I have been to Mashhad, which is, they call it the Haram. Haram means the holy place, basically like what you call the Mecca. Mm-hmm. Mecca. And because the Shias have more or less a parallel to Mecca, where they have Imam Ali Rida, or I don't know, and then of course Najaf is where the grandson of the Prophet himself is buried or killed. I don't know. They have some the beliefs in there, and those are places that are holier to the Shias than even Mecca and Medina, in my opinion. When you look at the way they make the tawaf, which means they go around the grave. And then, of course, they have Qum, which is... So my presumption is that all this holy Shia places which the Shia schools hold very close to their hearts. And then, of course, if Donald Trump goes ahead and takes out one or two of those places, you can rest assured every Shia globally would want to die for that cause. And that, of course, puts on fire the whole country, the whole world, the whole globe. And they're not small in number. You're talking about close to 100 million in Iran, yes. and a third, or if not more than a third of the population in
Iraq.
No, Iraq is there more than
40%,
more than 50%,
okay.
About 50%. But then you have them also in Lebanon, you have them in Syria, you have them in literally everywhere.
Minority in
you
Bahrain.
have a very powerful minority in Kenya, in India,
and in Bahrain.
In Bahrain, of course, they're the majority in Bahrain.
Yes, and they're suppressed by the Sunni
They're
monarchy.
suppressed by the royal family, which is Sunni. Now, what exactly? What's your fear, being an expert in security?
Well, you see the.
What could the Iranians possibly do now?
Well, Kenya is a very different. Doesn't have as. I don't believe there are as many sleeper cells or as active sleeper cells run by Iran here any longer. I do believe that what's happened in 2012, 2013, 2014, brutal as it may have been between the Israelis and the anti-terror police unit, did reduce, roll up a lot of the sleeper cells. On the other hand, if we were sitting in West Africa, we'd have a much bigger problem because there are substantial Lebanese diaspora communities in Sierra Leone, Liberia, Nigeria, Ghana, all over. And I first came across them in Sierra Leone when I was there in the 1980s, and I remember
all the Francophone.
Yes, the Francophone, but also Sierra Leone and the gold areas, the diamond areas. This is before the government collapsed under Foday Sanko when I was there.
There are more Lebanese Christians in the rest of the world in the diaspora than you have them in Lebanon.
That's true, and a Lebanese Christian who was subsequently killed by people from Liberia, 6 of them, who were in a place called Seguema on the border with Liberia. They had served in the Lebanese army. They had served then in the Phalange, the Christian militia, and they had been invited.
The Maronites, you call them.
They were Maronites, but they're also different. Lebanon is a patchwork of religions and ethnic groups. It's very confusing.
Absolutely.